Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Khalil Doheny, and I'm Director of Content here at DNA. Today, we have Charles from Atombeam. Charles, how are you doing today?
Good, Khalil. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Really excited for today's webinar. We're going to learn more about, what's next for Atombeam. Charles is going to talk a little bit more about that. But I do want to throw in a quick disclaimer before we start. Uh, Charles and Atombeam are currently doing a test the waters campaign. No money or other consideration is being solicited, and if sent in response, will not be accepted. No offer to buy the securities can be accepted, and no part of the purchase price can be received until the offering statement is filled, and only through an intermediary platform. And indication of interest, invoices, no obligation or commitment of any kind. Reserving securities is simply an indication of interest. Charles, anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, no, except I think it's okay to say that we are getting very short in terms of the time frame prior to what we intend to start. And I wish, I don't know if I can say the exact time and date, simply because, I mean, I know guys want to reserve in advance and they're going to get a discount if they do, but I will tell you, after tomorrow, I would be very concerned if I was interested in getting a discount on the reservation basis.
And if you want to stay up to date and want to, be there right when they go live, here is their Test the Waters campaign link. Click on that, sign up, and get notified when they're ready to go live. With that being said, Charles, I'm going to hand the mic to you.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Khalil. Yes, thanks for joining us today. And thanks again for everybody being so interested in Atombeam. I think there's sound basis for it. I've been pretty interested for a while myself. And it's really because I see what I think a lot of folks here also see, which is like, man, if all this data floating around out there is like so repetitive and inefficient and everything, and you have one ring to rule them all, that could squash it all down and make it more efficient and still be as accessible. I mean, that's a big deal. So anyway, without further ado, my plan is here, just so everybody knows. I'm going to talk a little about, the prospective offering. But mostly I'm going to be talking about where we are with a company and just sort of catching everybody up like I usually do. Except in this case, it's just me. There's no guest star. And next month, the plan is to have somebody I think you'll find really, really interesting. But for now, for today, it'll just be little old me and Khalil giving you a little update on where we are mainly. And then advising you that, again, after tomorrow, I think if you're interested in reserving shares, I would be concerned about being able to do so. So anyway, without further ado, let me share a screen here and go through a deck really quickly. Let's see here. And I always forget which one. All right. So just this is about like where we are and how I see us tracking. What we're doing to make this into something that actually is out there in use and everything. So really we think about it in these terms. Where are we now? Well, we are really focused right now on getting our stuff in the SaaS, because it's pretty clear based on conversations with customers and a lot with our partners over at Viasat and Inmarsat, that if we have a SaaS product, that it's going to be really easy to use. It's going to be built into things because, you know, at the end of the day, that's what compaction is about. It's about being a part of something and making that thing more efficient rather than being the thing. And so if you're a SaaS thing, then you're kind of already in the thing. And that is exactly what the whole idea is with this, not only our standalone SaaS, but what Viasat and Inmarsat are planning to do with effectively their being our customer. And then they go out and resell this combined product. That's their thinking. So, at any rate, sometime in the next few months, we want to get, so just to be clear, next month, or sorry, yeah, next month in October 11th and 12th, we're going to be featured pretty prominently at a big event, and I think I've mentioned this elsewhere, but it's going to be in London at where the big partnership thing that Viasat Inmarsat has. It's called Elevate, and we're going to be a big piece of that. They're going to feature us on stuff, and a lot of the reason they are isn't because they think we're good guys and stuff. It's because they think they can sell a lot more bandwidth if they do that. So over the next few months, we're going to be rolling out the SaaS product. We're going to be really digging deep into these DoD contracts. We're going to be applying for more DoD contracts. And over sometime between now and the end of the year, when we have some, we hope, significant commercial revenue in addition to the DoD revenue, we think we'll be in a position to raise a significant chunk of capital. And we're going to need that because that's how we're going to really put the pedal to the metal. You need a lot of people to do a lot of the things that are not just technical and engineering, but the marketing and the product management and, you know, just all the things that a company needs. And so let me talk a little about how we see the markets that are out there. Transmitting IoT datagrams, that you say, well, that's not a very big bubble. Well, it's billions of dollars. But an awful lot, we think, is going to be coming out of security, out of intrusion detection. But the mega whale stuff is probably, oops, that's my fault, sorry, is probably going to be in the searchability thing that everybody heard Josh talk about recently. How if you could suddenly, it'd be like a blind man who suddenly could see. If all of these data centers suddenly could see their data, work with their data, access it just as though it was not encoded, that's a huge deal. But that is a heavy lift. Just to warn everybody, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of investment, because you know you're going up against guys that like Snowflake and guys like that and Databricks that are worth tens of billions and have poured billions of dollars into development and stuff. But we're going to have an inherent major advantage over them. Now, we say, okay, no, the right thing to do is license them our stuff. We may do that, but this is such an enabling thing. I can't tell you, it's so important. Now, neural compaction, which we're thinking of rebranding, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. It's an AI that makes pretty much any compression better. And it's pretty significant. I mean, I think we could see some really, really big deal interest in that. And I'll talk more about that too. And finally, on the chips and basically being able to make chips more efficient, logic boards more efficient, building the code for both compaction and neural compaction into a chip. I'm pretty excited about the potential there. I think that could be massive. So, but we need to walk before we run. And so that really means getting SaaS out there in use, production. And so that's where we've got most of our work being done. I mean, when I talk about who's doing what on things, it's really the focus is on this making SaaS into a real product. And there's a whole lot that goes into that. And this, VP engineering, who's I think I'm going to be able to talk about him pretty soon here. At any rate, this is his whole expertise. His background is VP engineering in major league companies that focused on SaaS, and those companies were backed by Greylock and Kleiner Perkins. He, by the way, he's convinced that if we get a little further down the road and we are able to show the SaaS working, that we should go to those firms. And I've been approached my own self by Greylock at least. But at any rate, that's for the future. The main thing we have to do is keep everybody's nose to the grindstone and make sure we knock this out, to get this SaaS done. So that's where I'm pushing resources right now. And so you say, well, what is it? Good question, fair question. Really, the SaaS is a distinction from software. Software is what you put in your computer, and it's the OS that runs it, and it's Office and stuff like that. And it's, if you want to update it or use it or do anything with it, you need to upload it, you need to install things and so forth. With SaaS, though, what you're really talking about is not software per se that is used by a device. It's really software that sits in the cloud, and a lot of the processing and the work and so forth is being done in the cloud, and you're more or less renting it if you're using it in a device. Which makes it really easy to upgrade, which makes it really easy to maintain and all that, because you don't have a lot of things scattered all over the place that have software versions, some newer, some older, some this, some that. All that stuff is managed in the cloud. And that's why it's how you really, really scale things. So in not only scale things, as this is pointing out, you don't have to think about, okay, well, will it be compatible with 1,000 different hardware combinations or things like that? No, it's all there, all in one place, and it simplifies things a lot and allows you really to make things a lot bigger, a lot faster. So this is a big deal for us to become a service. And it makes us far more accessible. And then once we have this built, now we can talk about adding the other things, like adding the extra security features and neural compaction and all these other things. But we absolutely are focused on do the one thing first, with every bit of our resources focused on make this SaaS thing work. And so that's what they're doing, and they're doing it at the highest speed they can. Because when we go to this thing in London next month, we want to at least have some way of demoing it, and then not too long after that to be able to let customers use it. So that's the plan, and it's working so far. And longer term, yeah, the SaaS is the key thing. But if compaction is already in something, built into a protocol, built into a software or on chips or something, it's already there. And now this is the longer term, just to be clear, this is not what we're doing now. This is how you you move into like, all right, when I buy a phone, I buy my iPhone, it's got a compaction on it. When I buy this thing or that thing, it's got compaction on it. When I buy a satellite terminal, it's there, it's in my car, it's everywhere. But to do that, you really need to be instantiated in chips. So this is how kind of we view how we mature ourselves and get to be worth mega bucks, is really moving from where we are today to, as things mature in features and searchability and things like that, to longer term being in chips. That's how you see this thing scaling up and having literally billions of copies of compaction everywhere. And just to give everyone a little more on this whole thing with the searchability, because again, it's a heavy lift in terms of actually making all this actually work. But if you think about like how a data center works, data centers have huge amounts of data, exabytes of data in them. But the amount that actually can be read and used at any given time is tiny compared to the amount that's stored there. And if it's compressed, it can't be read. And that, I can't tell you how massively a problem that is. It's a huge amount of power and computing time and analyst time and all that just to find the data and take it out, so and decompress it so it can be used. I can't tell you how big of a deal this is. But again, this is not immediate. This is going to be something it's going to take a while to develop and a lot of money to develop, because being able to be able to create all the analytical tools and everything, big deal. So now I want to talk a little about neural compaction. So that is, right now it's a lab product. It's not, well, it isn't a product, it's a lab thing. You can use it on a lab, you can use it in a computer and all that. But what it really, to be a product, it needs to take, our product guys, the VP engineering, needs to be able to take that and translate it into something that first it'll be on the SaaS, it'll be another feature of the SaaS, but it'll also eventually sit in chips and all that, just like compaction would be. Because the idea is to put them together. But we're thinking of, because I should mention this. So it's an AI, and it's a neural net AI. And what it does is it sits on top of any compression, which includes video compression, which are called codecs. But you can put it on top of pretty much any compression, and it'll make it better. It'll make it more efficient. It will increase its ability to reduce the size of the data, sometimes as much as 2x, but it just depends on the application. It could be much less, but in any case, it is enhancing it. I can't describe how it works because it's, we're still applying for patents and stuff, but once this is patented, it doesn't just apply to particular kinds of sensor images and stuff like synthetic aperture radar, which is what we're doing with the Air Force. It will apply to pretty much anything, including regular old video, which means that you could have it pushed out in your TV or your phone or whatever. And again, it's another thing about efficient data. And that's what we do. And when you think about what we do and you step back and you'd say, when you combine everything together, we're really about a driving down how much data needs to be stored, how much data needs to be moved. All that will drive down costs dramatically. And there's a lot of room for us there to operate, because especially with compaction, but also with neural compaction or neurocom AI, as we're thinking of calling it, the field is very wide. Now, there's a ton of video, as everybody knows, tons of video. And to the extent that we can put this on top of video and everything, you know, like all the video, all the data, all the everything that moves around in the world, we could be applicable to. So what about, I keep talking about our production engineering. Well, are we still doing the basic R&D that generates all these great ideas? Yes, we do. We are indeed. Some of you will recognize Josh Cooper. He's the guy below, and Zhu Li, who's the professor on the upper right. And he's the father of the AI, neurocom AI. And Josh is the father of compaction, in the sense that he's the guy that has taken the basic idea that was generated by co-founder Ashkar Viahi, and who's left the company, by the way. And basically, we needed to focus on production, and Ashkar essentially agreed that we needed to, because we're focusing on this production aspect, his best contributions were really sort of more on the sort of idea generation side. So, at any rate, so that's where we're focusing our work. At any rate, but the R&D, very much live, very much working, and the number of applied for patents keeps increasing. And so why are we raising money now? Well, you know, we're really doing it right now because we need to build out this SaaS, and we need to have money in the bank to do that. So we're promoting it with partners, and we're also getting out and talking about it at conferences. There's going to be a fair bit of what's called sales engineering work done for early adopters as they learn how to use it, and we learn as they learn how to use it, and all that. And at the end of the day, we don't want to come out at the end of this year without a significant chunk of money in the bank, because what institutional investors like to do is drag out a negotiation, get you to agree to something, and then, oh, well, we decided this, and so we're going to give you a lower valuation, and you're out of money, and so you don't have a choice. And so we're not going to let ourselves get in that position, just to be clear. So really quickly on the general plan. So 18-month time frame. Talked about that before. It's not like, okay, we're going to sell the company in 18 months. That conclusion isn't the thing. What we're trying to do is to make everybody think about, if I'm doing this over an 18-month period, is that going to maximize the value that I bring to the table, that we can realize in the company? And if it isn't, then you got to ask the question, is it worth investing your time and the company's money to do that thing? And, you know, there's arguments for things that, you know, could be, all right, it won't actually be in the market selling, but here's an aspect of compaction that could be patented or something that produces value. So it's enough of a time frame that everybody stays really focused, but all the little micro decisions that people make every day need to be guided by something, including time frame and mission. And so really over the next 6 months, as I said, really start, finish up this SaaS, get it in the market, start selling it, and also focus a lot of time and attention on these DoD projects, and just put ourselves in a position in which we can say, okay, we're ready to go out and raise 10, 15, $20 million to really, make this thing ramp. And then after that, in all this time, we're going to continue to bring it to generate more patents, which I think add a lot of value. It's a cool underlying value holding thing. Even if things went bad, you still have money, you still have value in your patents. And then focus on what are the things that are going to be most attractive to end users in terms of features, in terms of Neurocom AI. What are the things that we can do within this kind of time frame that will be most attractive to users? And that's going to be our focus. That, getting them out there, building them in, and starting to sell it. I think, I was going to mention on reserving shares. But I didn't get that built, sorry. But bottom line is that on the reserving shares, it's pretty straightforward. If you're interested, you go to the site, you click, you choose, you get a 5% discount on the round automatically if for anything you've reserved. There's no cost or obligation. You can just go ahead and do it. And again, after tomorrow, I would not be sanguine about the opportunity to reserve shares. I think that is all. And if you would like to fire some questions at me, then go ahead, Khalil.
Yep. Oscar may have left the operational side of Atombeam, but does he remain as an advisor and or a shareholder?
He is by all means he is a major shareholder, and he remains a strong supporter of the company in every way. He certainly has contributed a lot in terms of all the things that all the creation of the IP and all that, and I have no doubt that he would continue to contribute to that going forward. He has a major vested interest in making sure that the company's successful.
And then this person says, I don't understand a darn thing about Atombeam. I grew up hunting and fishing. I don't even know what data is, but I know a good idea when I see one. My question is, can Atombeam work in agriculture?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that's happening in ag is more and more machines are connected and sending data all the time. Every John Deere machine sends data to the data centers. I think it's usually over satellites, but and increasingly, those machines are going to be sending more data as they become autonomous, because I think you're going to see a revolution in the machines that are out in the fields. They're called growers, that do things like plow and harvest and everything. Those things are going to be autonomous increasingly over time, and all the data that they gather and will be transmitted in real time, and we are absolutely a part of that picture, especially if it's satellite, which I can tell you from very direct experience with a large ag a machine company. Yes, they are very interested in figuring out how can they send boatloads of data over satellites.
And then Ed asks, hey, Charles, it's been a while since we discussed, what is Atombeam's current burn rate?
That's a good question because it's changing rapidly. It's still, I would guess, in the 150 range, although can't be held to that, please, because I'm not sure, because I haven't looked in the last month or so, but I try to monitor it pretty closely. But I can tell you that it's tied down very tightly. Nobody's making a lot of money. And for the amount of people we have working, we have a lot. We're not spending very much. So I think it's something in that range. Although what happens in real life is you can say what your core burn is, but then something always happens, like if we start raising money, then we'll spend money on advertising. Just don't have a choice on that.
And then is the goal still to raise the big money from strategic partners?
I would much rather do that. I'm not foreclosing the idea of venture, but I think, or really any other, quality investor group. But it really comes down to saying, okay, where do I think we can get the best deal, and where do I think we enhance the potential of the company the best? If you're talking a strategic, and say, for example, Viasat, Inmarsat, they may say, well, we have money in these guys, let's push business to them. Right? They're kind of doing that already, but maybe they do it even more. And that's just one example of many, many, many. So those kinds of relationships are really, really valuable. And that's a lot of why I emphasize it, that, and usually they'll give you a better deal in terms of pre-money valuation and so forth.
And then not sure if or how much additional money I want to invest. Will our investment opportunity be limited to the quantity of shares we reserve?
No, you can reserve as many as you like. You wouldn't get the 5% discount on anything that wasn't reserved.
And what is the pre-offer market value of Atombeam, and how many shares will be offered at what price? You got to be a little careful around this.
Yeah, I don't think I'm allowed to say that. I think it has to be on the website.
Correct.
I was cautioned about talking about any specifics like that. And please understand, this isn't me. This is what is required by the SEC, and the StartEngine enforces this and all that. So, but you will see all of the information there already is some on the reservation site. All of the information on all of the financials, all of the everything will be on the site if and when the raise begins. We're very, very disclosive. Everything's there.
And will the next offering be a Reg CF or an A+?
This one would be a CF. If we decide, and there's a lot of things that could factor in, but one thing that StartEngine has expressed interest in are doing, and others, is an A+, which would be sort of like either a supplement to or in substitute of taking institutional money. It would probably be more likely to be a supplement to institutional money. So you'd say, okay, we're going to need 20 million. We're taking this much in from strategic, and we need that much more. And some of that would be from the A+.
And then any private placement offering or raising money elsewhere as well in parallel with StartEngine?
Historically, we have done that. I do not have any board approval at this stage to do a private placement. But anyone who's interested in participating in a private placement should feel free to send me an email, charles@atombeamtech.com, to say I'm interested if you go forward and do something. And then, yes, I will provide you with the information. With the cautionary note that generally speaking, private placements are limited to accredited investors. And there's specific rules about that the SEC requires. Again, not my plan, but that's how it is.
Does the StartEngine 10% owner bonus apply in addition to any bonus from reserving early?
Any I believe that is correct. And there is also, I believe, a plan to offer a loyalty bonus if you're already an investor. So, the plan, I don't know if everything's been approved yet, but I mean, the normal things that you would expect to see will be presumably in any offering should it occur.
I don't know how much we can talk about this, but do we have an estimate of the length of the new raise? A few months?
Yeah, to the extent that we did it, I have to keep adding that. I know it's kind of stupid, but it's going to be for one period only. There won't be any renewals, which I believe is 3 months, but I'm not sure exactly what that is. I'm pretty sure so the plan is no renewals, just one time frame, and then that's it. And I'd have to double check with StartEngine exactly how long that is, but the intent is it's not going to sit out there like last time for like forever and ever. It's going to be one shot.
You indicated that there are 2 of 3 US engineers. Are you actively looking for another engineer?
I would say yes, we would be. But it's going to be up to the VP engineering, who is he has very specific ideas about how things about the kind like he's very fussy in terms of how good the engineer is, but a lot of it is what kind of engineer specialized engineer we need. Like for example, if we were to push out Neurocom AI into production, that would mean we need somebody who understands that kind of technology. It's different than the kind of technology that regular compaction uses. See what I mean? So the answer is probably. Again, send me something if you want, and if you have a specific thought in mind.
And what does your sales pipeline look like?
Well, it's kind of like this. I have told everyone I don't want anybody actively pushing to get people to buy something now, because I want to wait until we have the SaaS running, because I think that the simplicity and ease of demonstration and ease of getting up and running and all that will be so much greater with the SaaS that I think we'll be, who's on the list? Well, it's all these guys who have come to us and talked to us in the past, like Chevron and Sony and ExxonMobil and Schlumberger and, Pfizer and Roche, and, it goes on and on and on with this big old list. But until we have something to really sell them that gives them an ease of adoption, then they're prospects, but they won't be more than that. They won't be, I think they're even called suspects, right? There are people that have expressed strong interest to us in using our stuff, but we need to have something for them to use that is something that they can adopt and use without any or minimal coding.
And you had mentioned additional commercial sales by the end of the year. Is the SaaS product a part of that? When do you see SaaS being ready and producing sales?
Yep. So that is how, I mean, I would say this, that could we achieve commercial sales outside of SaaS? Yes, I think so. But I think that anyone who's looking at using it is going to be advantaged by using the SaaS. It's better for them and it's better for us. It's managed and billed and everything else by AWS and Azure. And initially AWS only, then Azure. That makes our lives enormously better. All the support, all the other stuff is done by them. We don't have to build up a big support organization. So to get to the answer to the question, yes, the goal is to have sales starting late this year. I think that we're going to have something available for people to actually buy. I'm hoping by late November. And in any case, I think really though, things will really, because, it is like Thanksgiving to Christmas is pretty slow and everything, and then Christmas, New Year also slow. So realistically, I think we'll have some starting, I hope, late this year, and then Q1 will be when we really start seeing some stuff catch fire. That we think is what it looks like. Because it's not putting this stuff in the SaaS and then doing all the QA and all the other stuff to make sure that you have a real honest to God product that people can use and big enterprises can use. I mean, I was talking to a $50 billion head of IoT for a $50 billion company this week or last week. And, he's all over testing it. So there's tons of guys, but there's going to be a testing, there's going to be a this, there's going to be a that. And then they're going to say, okay, yeah, we'll use it. So there.
You keep talking about reserving shares. How is that different than buying shares? Can you elaborate?
Sure. So when you reserve shares on the Test the Water site, TTW, they call it, you're not committing to buying anything. All you're doing is saying, okay, I'm interested in participating. Count me in for $1,000 investment. Don't count me in, rather. I'd be interested potentially in making $1,000 investment in Atombeam. So you go to the thing, you sign up, you reserve those shares. That just means that, when we open it up, you'll have, I don't really know how much time, but some period of time in which you exercise what is in fact kind of an option that you got for free, that you can purchase shares and you get a discount for reserving it in advance. That's it. But there's no obligation to actually buy the shares.
I added the link in the chat box. If you guys have any further questions or would like to learn more, go ahead and check out that link. Can you provide any updates regarding Lockheed Martin and SAB?
Yeah. So Lockheed. So it was Lockheed and what?
SAB, SAA.
Saab. Yeah. Okay. So Lockheed. Yeah. I mean, I'm in weekly contact with those guys. They're really, Lockheed is notorious for sort of, getting all excited and doing lots of stuff, and then you got to kick them a few times to get them going again. But they remain pretty steady, interested, working with us. I haven't, we haven't signed a contract yet for them to be subcontractors to us in that DoD thing, but they've said they want to do it. And part of the slowdown is, we've just had a slow time in, so this part of the Space Force that we were supposed to be working with, they had personnel change, and now it's delayed some other things and so forth. So it's going slower than we want on that one. The other phase two is going clicking along fine. This other one, the Space Force one, is slower simply because of personnel changes. At any rate, it's all fine. They're moving forward, but it's slowing us down with respect to that and with respect to working with Lockheed. That being said, I was at a conference for the Air Force week before last. They were really hot on working with us. It's like a lot of things. It's an enormous organization, and you got to find the right person. And I found the guy who's in charge of IoT for the whole freaking company, and he's like, "Holy crap, this is great," and like, you're going to talk to the engineer, and we're going to so all that stuff is starting to move forward too, and that's a separate thing than the original set of connections that we were making. This was totally. I mean, it's helped by the fact that we already had connections and already had an NDA signed and all that. But this is more right down the middle in terms of this guy works with IoT data. That's what they do for a living. And being able to make it more efficient, huge for them. And so I think that's going to bear some fruit. Now with Saab, different story. They did some internal stuff. We're not really sure. It had nothing to do with us. But they did some sort of internal reorg that derailed basically all their projects, including us. They keep in touch, and we talk to them once in a while. They're still very keen on incorporating us, and they're actually really interested also in neuro AI, neurocom AI. I'll remember it. Anyway, that I think could turn into something, but it's not today simply because, again, internal stuff going on at Saab, nothing to do with us.
All right. It sounds like you expect to be generating revenue outside of DoD contracts within the next 6 months. Is that correct?
I think it's a reasonable presumption. I can't be projecting, right? I'm not allowed to project. But I can tell you that I'll put it this way. We will have a lot of people that will be talking to us and so forth over the next month, especially at this Viasat conference. And we will have ourselves incorporated in their offering in which they intend to start selling. And we will also have our own SaaS up and running. And we have a big old list of people that we're going to get in touch with as soon as we have something SaaS-wise for them to buy. So add it up if you like to, yes, I think in 6 months we'll be selling commercial.
And how do you see the emergence of quantum computers impacting the need for compaction?
It's hard to say, because quantum is so out there, new and everything. Is it possible? I mean, one thing to think about is the data that goes in and out of quantum computers is all binary, right? I mean, it's only inside the quantum computer that the data is processed differently using qubits instead of bits. And so to the extent that the data moves in and out and sits and works and is processed on logic boards, all that, yeah, that's still very much the same kind of thing as with any other computer, any other network, etc. Inside of a quantum computer, I've asked Josh the same question, and he just poo-poos it as like a possibility that he doesn't even think quantum's very real in his mind in terms of being a practical reality. He says it's questionable whether it ever happens. So that's his view. And then you can read a lot of other different views. But at any rate, I would say the IO, all the processing around it, yes. inside, I wouldn't count on it at all.
All right. Is 10 million even close to enough based on burn rate and customer projected revenue and NRE to build a world-class team?
Um, that's a fair question. I would guess that it's probably low. Notice there was a plus next to the 10 million. So I think that, you know, what it would really depend on in terms of how you do it is you don't want to over raise. You want to raise the amount you really need over the next 18 months or so. And if it's 10 is enough, if 15, if 20, whatever, then you raise that amount. But if you over raise, then everybody gets diluted unnecessarily when you're doing all this value creation and you're ending up with a much higher pre-money valuation. So if we determine, yeah, 10's the right number that gets us through 18 months, it probably is light, then, you know, then that's what we need to raise. But more likely, it's more, and then eventually, especially as I keep saying about this searchability thing, that could mean, you know, really big numbers. And if you put it on chips, that alone is at least a $15-20 million exercise. Now, I should add to this, part of that money could very well be coming from DoD. If we work our butts off here and really do the right stuff with DoD, they're really hot on both compaction and neurocom AI. So they could easily say, okay, we'll move you to phase 3 and here's 15-20 million. So that's not impossible at all.
All right.
Which obviously affects how much we need to raise.
Has the valuation changed for the next offering?
I can't talk about the specifics of valuation, but I can tell you it's yes, it is up. Not a huge amount.
And will this be the final opportunity to invest in Atombeam before a large institutional raise?
That is the plan. I can't tell you that no, there's no way and all that, but I can tell you that is the plan. The plan is that in order to really turn this into, yes, a world-class company with all the people it's going to need and everything, yeah, we're going to have to raise some significant money. And so that's not going to be a Reg CF. Is it possible that a Reg A plus is part of the picture? Yes. And it's also possible that it gets dragged out, takes longer, and we have to do another CF or whatever. But I'm hoping and planning for that not to be the case. And I think based on all the market demand we see, I don't think we'll need to do that.
And then are there any major hurdles to the SaaS development which could derail the plan?
I don't really, I mean, nothing's going to derail it. Could it delay it? Something could delay it. But let me tell you though, our VP of engineering, this SaaS is his whole thing. That's what he's done for multiple major league companies, billions in valuation kinds of companies. He's been the VP engineering. So this guy knows what he's doing and he doesn't see any issues. So take that. I mean, I'm not the technical guy. So, I mean, could something happen? Something can always happen, but I really don't think it's a significant possibility.
And then I haven't heard much lately about the FPGA or the ASIC chip. Do you still have engineers working on those things?
Yep. Well, I would say though, all right. So just to be clear on that. So good question. So the FPGA, yes, we finished the what was called the instantiation, building it into a development kit or dev kit. And that was, I showed it, I think the last one, I think it was just, it's a bunch of wires and boards and stuff. But basically it's all the things you need to do as a precursor to putting it on an FPGA. So we have interest from Air Force in funding the process of moving that to a prototype, which is what you do in a phase two. And so we are building now a proposal for the Air Force to put it on an FPGA. And the goal longer term is FPGA, compaction, the neural compaction, all running in parallel and eventually combining so that you have an FPGA that runs all the stuff. And you'd have some that don't have neural because you don't need video all the time. But whenever you have video, you're always going to need regular compaction because it's never just video. It's always like video and various kinds of telematics and so forth.
And then, do you plan on sticking this out for the long haul, Charles? No plans of early retirement or something like that?
Well, I could tell you, I will tell you this, that I have made no plan to exit. If it came to be that, that there was somebody better to manage this thing than me, I'm not going to stand in the way. But I will tell you that I am dedicated to the success of this company. I am excited about it, and I'm going to do whatever's best for the company all the time. I'm not one of these guys that you have to pry the cold dead hands off kinds of guys. But I'm also a guy who's like, I think I know what to do, and I think I'm pushing the right direction, and I think I have a really good team. And so long as that is the case, but I think I'm the right guy, but the day I'm not, and there's a better guy, that's okay. I can step into a chairman role or something, but I want to stay involved in any case. I'll be clear on that.
All right. We have enough time for one more question here. Thank you for my Atombeam hat and t-shirt, Charles. I'm wearing my hat right now.
All right. I thought
Anything
about
else?
wearing mine.
Same here. Is there anything else that the retail investors like myself can do to help facilitate Atombeam's ultimate success?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think wear your hat, wear your thing, wear your shirt around and stuff, like especially if you're around tech guys or people in big companies, because yes, I mean, part of it is I wanted to reward investors, but part of it is there's a lot of advertising going on, right? And so to the extent the word gets out and people get excited about Atombeam and everything, and frankly, to know me is to love me kind of stuff is going on with Atombeam. If you're a guy or woman who knows about, who has, deals with data and moving data around and everything, you don't know whom you could suddenly touch with this thing, and it could suddenly be like, whoa, really? I had no idea this company existed. It could turn into something that you can say, hey, I'm not an engineer, but blah, 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 blah. Here's what they do. Because the cool thing about it is it's like the light bulb kind of, you could explain how a light bulb are. You got two filaments or two things that, or whatever they are, and a filament between them, and it lights up. That's what it does. And it's like, if you could explain like how Atombeam works in a basic way, people get it. And if somebody really has a need for it, boom, that could be a customer for us, and send them our way.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Charles, for taking the time today. Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. Thank you for taking the time to go through all of this. And everyone who's watching the recap, get in before it's too late. We don't know if this is going to be the last one, but why wait? Get in right now before it's too late.
Right. So, good.
I'll be dropping the
yeah.
link here one more time. Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Charles, and thank you everyone
Thanks.
for attending.
Thanks, Phil, and thanks, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen.
Goodbye.
All right.